Thank you for joining us for episode 61 of Project Geekology. I am one of your hosts, Anthony, and joining me today is another guest. Last week for my Jujutsu Kaisen episode, I had my friend Tiffany that I knew from high school, and now I have my friend Ivan that I met working at a grocery store. Thank you for joining me, Ivan.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So today's topic is going to be Monster Hunter. I remember talking about Monster Hunter with you for years. We've been fans of the series for such a long time, and I knew that you were the perfect person to bring on for the show. Before we get into the main topic, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been up to. So as of recording this past Sunday, there was the National Cinema Day. I went and I got to go see the Gran Turismo movie. I know that critically it didn't do so well, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought that it kept me on the edge of my seat because it was a story that's based on a true story. So anything really could happen when it comes to stuff that's based on true stories. I went to go see that movie, and I wanted to go see Blue Beetle, but it didn't end up panning out. Those tickets were selling out quick, so I ended up just going to see Strays. And I thought that was pretty fun. And, I've been just preparing for this episode, playing some Monster Hunter Rise. I actually played Monster Hunter World maybe a few months ago, and still fun as ever. Ivan, the listeners have heard so much about me. Tell them a little bit about yourself and things that you enjoy to do. Just a little bit about yourself.
I'm just really heavy into anime and a little bit of gaming. I do have a passion for Monster Hunter, though. That's something I've been doing since the PSP era of gaming.
Same. The Monster Hunter era started early for me, too. But we will get into the nitty-gritty of that. I want to talk a little bit about some of the upcoming episodes that I have coming out. I have a Twitch episode that is planned that will be coming out after this Monster Hunter episode, and a Sailor Moon one that's kind of up in the air. I'm trying to get with the people that I want to record that one with, so we're trying to schedule that. There may be a Raiders of the Lost Ark episode that's thrown in the mix, so keep an ear out for that. And honestly, there hasn't been too much craziness that's happened. It's been a week since I last recorded and got the Jujutsu Kaisen episode out. And well, actually, you know what? When I did do that last recording, the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka dropped. And so for those of you who have seen Ahsoka and are a little confused, or are interested in watching Ahsoka and are not too sure if you should watch something else, you're confused because it's pretty much Rebels Season 5. And yes, watch Rebels before you watch Ahsoka if you don't want to. I don't think that you'll be too messed up, but I would recommend watching Rebels first because it'll give you that solid foundation and understanding for what's to come in Ahsoka, and you won't be as confused if you are. So without further ado, is there anything else that you want to add before we jump into the main event?
No, I have nothing else to put in.
Alrighty, so we'll hop into Monster Hunter. I'll talk a little bit about my experience with Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is actually one of those series that I stumbled upon, kind of like Persona. Persona was one of those series I stumbled upon, but instead of on PS Vita, it was on PSP. I remember wandering into GameStop as a teenager and, just checking out the different PSP games. You got this new handheld. Grew up playing Game Boy for most of my life, and now I got this new PlayStation handheld. I want something that I'm going to enjoy, something that I wouldn't be able to play on the Game Boy, but got closer to the console experience. And so I remember sitting on Monster Hunter for a little while. I remember seeing it every time I went into the store. I didn't get it right away, but I remember eventually pulling the trigger. It was Monster Hunter Freedom 2 that I got, and I remember hopping into that game and it just being this crazy world. For me, the graphics were amazing for such a small handheld device, and lo and behold, it was a game that had a learning curve. It was something that was tough. It's not something that you could jump in right away. I honestly didn't understand the game. At first, I started hunting in the guild hall. I didn't understand that there was actual village quests that you could go to. And I was so confused, but I still enjoyed it a lot. And honestly, I connected with a new friend over Monster Hunter. I don't know if I would have connected with him outside of that, but he saw me playing it one day on the bus and he's like, hey man, you have Monster Hunter? Yeah man, I got the game too. So I actually had somebody that helped teach me the ropes, and I got to actually play multiplayer in those early days of Monster Hunter. How about you? What was your beginning experience of Monster Hunter? What brought you into the fold?
Funny enough, I actually had an opposite experience to what you had. I spent probably my first paycheck to buy a PSP. Couldn't afford the video game, so I had to go to my brother, my younger brother at that. He had Monster Hunter Freedom 2 as well. I popped it in. I'm thinking, okay, this looks cool. It's like a dinosaur on the front, guy with a big sword. Okay, got me. Okay. I pop it in. 2 minutes in, I'm like, wow, this is boring. And I'm like, yeah, this is not for me. I was like, I'll just wait till I get another game later. I popped it out. I did not see Monster Hunter until Freedom Unite.
Right. Honestly, during those days, I would say that Monster Hunter was very niche. Super niche. Like, not many people talked about it. And even then, people had PSPs back then, but I felt like I didn't see PSPs as much as I saw the DS, which was the Nintendo handheld of the time. And yeah, man, I had gotten Monster Hunter Freedom Unite also. And I think that that's when the series really revamped. And I felt like the pace of it kind of quickened a little bit. The Monster Hunter Freedom 2 felt a lot slower than it did. I mean, honestly, I wasn't used to playing something that felt so slow. I remember my first weapon was the Great Sword. I'm like, man, there's that timing that you have to learn with the weapons, especially in those earlier games.
I mean, yeah, it's true. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, the game was incredibly difficult the first time. The only reason I even picked it up the second time is because the commercial looked really, really cool. I was like, okay, this looks cool. What is this? I realized it was the same Monster Hunter game. I'm like, I guess I'll give it a shot, I guess. You know, I picked it up and I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing this alone this time. So I actually ended up buying 3 copies of Freedom Unite that day. I bought one for myself and one for my 2 brothers because I said I'm not going alone in this one. So I decided we're all going to learn together. And we got the hand of it a little bit. It was still extremely difficult because we were all trying to decide what weapons we're going to use, how we're going to play, and everything like that.
Right. Yeah. There was a period of Monster Hunter games that I didn't play. Like, there was the ones on the Wii that I didn't play.
Yeah, I didn't play those either. I didn't like those at all.
Yeah. I honestly wasn't a big fan of the motion controls of the Wii, so that I stayed clear from a lot of the Wii games because I didn't care for the motion controls, you know?
I don't know if you remember when the Wii version came out, they brought a special controller you can buy just to play Monster Hunter on it, and it was god awful.
Oh, was it really?
It was awful.
I didn't
like it. Maybe other people liked it. I wasn't a fan. I bought the regular edition, but it came with a controller. I had to think I paid extra for that, and it just didn't feel right.
That's wild. No, I did not know about that. I knew about the Wii versions, but I had never played it. So my entrance into the series was in the PSP era. Then I had the Dark Ages where I didn't really play any Monster Hunter until I started playing on the ones that were on like the 3DS.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing about Monster Hunter. If you really think about it, you can put it down, and I've done this many times. I can put it down for 3 months, not wanting to play it, and then one day I just have a weird itch. I pick it up, and it's like I didn't lose any time. I just get right back into it.
These later games in the series are more forgiving of any time that you spend away. But I would say that, like, Monster Hunter was our Dark Souls of that time. You know how Dark Souls is very tough? I completely
agree.
It's tough, and it's popular because it's tough. Well, we experienced that with Monster Hunter, you know, and I had a group of friends that back then we loved Monster Hunter. I loved the soundtrack, the theme for it. It's iconic, at least for me. And if you were to put a mascot to Monster Hunter, which monster would you say is the mascot of Monster Hunter?
I mean, I started with Freedom Unite, so it was a Nargacuga. But I mean, I have to say the Tigrex for me. I love that thing. I love fighting that thing. That thing is such a monster. It has a huge learning curve on top of that.
So for me, when I think of Monster Hunter, the first monster that pops up into my mind is the Rathalos.
Okay.
So say that you go to play Super Smash Brothers, there's the assist trophy, and the assist trophy is a Rathalos.
Yeah, I saw that. I was playing it with my brothers. We were like, let's just do items, something different. And I saw one come out, and I'm like, wait, what?
Yes. Rathalos was my first mountain to get over in those early days. Remember in the early Monster Hunter days, you take any item and your guy takes like 10 seconds to complete the animation? Your guy has to flex. You have this monster that's barreling towards you, and your guy is flexing. Dude, I've died many times due to that. And especially later in the series, as the monsters got faster, like the Tigrex and Nargacuga, and even like the ape ones, these types of monsters added a speed to it. The Rathalos was fast, but it's easier to dodge it if you see it running from far away. The Tigrex, like that thing will be up in your face in like a matter of seconds.
Yeah, no, I think what really got me was the music. The music in Monster Hunter will make you have chills sometimes. Like it will make your heart start pumping. Really fast.
It really, oh yeah, absolutely. And they really captured the moments of battle. Some of my favorite tracks are in Monster Hunter World.
Yeah, okay.
Like all the games have like their tracks that really bring it out for me, but I felt like Monster Hunter Worlds really brought in some tracks that captured battling that specific monster, whatever it was. I think my favorite track, and it's earlier in the game, is it's battle in the ancient forest when you fight the Anjanath.
Okay.
And that's like my favorite track because it has such a build up and it really just gets you pumped to fight.
I mean, if we're talking about World, I think my favorite track from there is when I'm fighting the Nergigante.
Oh, yeah.
The flagship one, the Elder.
Remember when Worlds came out and you and I were in GameStop and I bought the collector's edition? I have that statue.
The only reason you were able to buy that is because I canceled my pre-order before, and when I tried to go back, they said that you were the last one to get the pre-order on.
No way. No,
I canceled it because I'm like, you know what? I don't need the statue. Whatever.
Dude, I still have that statue sitting above my computer, man.
Now you can look at it every now and again and be like, yeah.
It's like, yeah. I took that from Ivan.
You took that from Ivan, yeah.
Thank you, Ivan, for passing on.
Yeah, no, that was, I still tell my wife all the time that is probably one of my biggest regrets in life, is letting that statue go to Anthony.
We'll be back after a quick break.
I hate talking.
Do you love talking about any topic and are never frustrated during conversations? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if there are topics that you avoid, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know the definition of every word others use? I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you are curious about the definition and historical usage of words, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Do you know about current events and other random topics? Then I Hate Talking is not a podcast for you.
But if you enjoy conversations on a variety of topics, then listen to I Hate Talking.
Listen to I Hate Talking wherever you get your podcasts.
Episodes drop every Thursday. Listen, like, and follow I Hate Talking today.
Letting it go to me. Oh, you hear it here, folks. I broke somebody's spirit. But Monster Hunter World brought Monster Hunter into... It gave it its limelight, man. Like, more people were talking about it when that game came out.
Monster Hunter was just one of those crazy games that if you didn't know a friend that played it, you were never going to hear about it.
Dude, no, not at all. I saw more and more people playing when Monster Hunter World came out. I think that because Dark Souls made difficult games popular, that everybody gave a chance to this game that was deemed as like a type of Souls. It's not so much a Soulsborne game, but it's still in the vein of like that tough, you fight these tough bosses and you have to like kind of learn, you have to learn their moves and you have to dodge and you grind. That's one of the biggest things that I loved about this game, was being able to build your own weapons and armor off of the resources that you get from these monsters, the scales, the bones, and the armor just looks amazing. The weapons look amazing. That's like one of my favorite aspects of the game.
Yeah, no, weapon crafting and armor crafting is probably some of the most fun in the game, especially some of this really more impressive armor. I guess when you get closer to the end of the game, you start going for me, going into G rank, for example.
Yes.
The armor in G rank is just like, it's like, oh my god, like, where did this come from?
It's so crazy when you go from just the regular like high rankings up to G rankings, because it really does feel like the game just completely, the feel of it changes, not gameplay wise, but the monsters are insane. You start fighting all these elder dragons.
You know what's funny about that though? I didn't feel like an actual Monster Hunter gamer until I got to G rank, because to get to G rank was an accomplishment in itself. Like I felt like if they made trophies, I deserved one, because I would proudly display it. I made it to G rank.
Getting to G rank it's a grind.
Yeah.
It is a grind, and that's the one thing. Like, with Monster Hunter, you build this armor and you build this weapons, but like one of the most important things is making sure you have the right gear for whatever monster that you're fighting. Like if you're fighting something that's weak to lightning or weak to fire, you want to have weapons that use both of that. And then whatever element that they use, you want to make sure that your armor has a resist against that. It's so important.
It's funny though, because that's when I first started playing Freedom Unite and I got my brothers into it, we had no idea about weapon weaknesses, about resistance. I'm just like going in there with like jaggy armor and I'm like, okay, let's go kill some stuff,
Dude, same. I just like went with whatever looked cool at the time,
It took me a while to learn this stuff. I think I was stuck on the monster's name, I think, was the Kungalala.
Yes, the ape one.
The pink one.
Oh my gosh.
And I could not kill that thing. My brothers could not kill it. We all three got on it. We just kept getting carded over and over again. And I was like, man, this is hard. Like, this is real hard. I can't get past this. I stopped playing for like 3 months after that.
You know what gave me issues in those earlier days too were the like lesser dragons. I think it was like the Kutku.
The Yin Kutku?
Yeah, the
Yin Garuga.
The Yin Cuckoo.
Okay.
And they were just so erratic, and they would like peck and they would swing, and they were like the Kongalala but of dragons, and like it was just so annoying to fight those. And so like that was like, I think that you first experienced that in Freedom Unite, because I don't think they existed in Monster Hunter Freedom 2.
Like I said, I picked it up and I threw it away after 2 minutes. I was not into that game at all. I'm surprised I'm even talking to you about Monster Hunter now, because I did not like Freedom 2.
I believe that Freedom 2, man, it was such a long time ago. And honestly, like, I don't know what they might have had, like a top tier dragon, but I feel like the Rathalos was like the top apex predator of that game, because usually whatever the apex predator of the game is, they're on the cover of the game.
Yeah.
If you notice that, like, Gore Magala was on, I think, was it Ultimate 3 or 4? Right. Oh, dude, I love the Gore Magala.
It was 4.
That was like one of the craziest, and then like they added a whole new aspect. Look, listeners, I apologize. Like, Monster Hunter, it's a series, but it's the type of game that doesn't have a central story that you can follow. It's more of like, it's a new game that comes out and there's like a big bad, and like you make your own hunter. Let's talk about the process when you're starting up the game, now that we're there. You start up the game, you build your own hunter, and at first it was just your hunter. They give you starter weapons for each weapon in the weapon box.
Yeah.
And so you get to try out the different weapons that you want to. I think that they start you off with the sword and the shield, because that's the very like basic, a lot of people would get used to it. And so like I tried the sword and the shield at first, and then like I automatically go to the great sword. I'm like, oh my gosh, this thing is hard, because you have to get your swings down. If you don't, then you're messed up.
Yeah, no, great sword learning was probably the hardest thing compared to me coming from longsword to great sword. I played the longsword for the longest, and it just was not getting the kills I needed.
So I had talked to you a little bit about it before the podcast, but let the listeners know, what is your favorite weapon and why?
I think I will always be great sword over anything else. I love the feeling of charging up a great sword and just bashing something in its face to where it gets knocked down. That is so satisfying to me.
So for me, it's so all over the place for me because I'll sit on a weapon for a while and then I'll want to change. And I remember for the longest time, and shout out to my buddies Kalis and Stoudemire, when I got back into Monster Hunter, like, and on the 3DS, we got Ultimate 3, and I sat on the gun lance for so long on that one, and nailing a charge on that, because you know how it takes a long time for that thing to charge before it shoots. And if you get swung on, it's over, you know, you get knocked over. So I sat on the gun lance for the longest time. And yeah, like me and my two buddies, and I have fond memories of Monster Hunter because I had that Monster Hunter crew that you were talking about. And it was me, my buddy Stoudemire, my buddy Kalis. We would get together, and one of my favorite things that we did, and this was like back in 2013, 2014 that we did this. We would get together to play Monster Hunter, but on Saturday evenings, we would get together, play Monster Hunter, and we would have Toonami running in the background. And nice. We would watch, I think at the time they were running Kill la Kill. My favorite Monster Hunter memories was getting together with them and putting that on. And, you know, just like watching anime. Dude, my friend Kalis would rage so... I mean, we've all raged in Monster Hunter.
Oh, yeah. I'm surprised my PSP made it.
My friend Kalis, I loved him, man, because, like, we'll be in the middle of, like, fighting, and he would be the one that would die the most. And he was always like, oh! Come on, man! And like me and like Stoudemire, we're like laughing, and then we were just like messing with him, like, come on, man, like why are you sleeping, bro? Like, what's going on? And then, like, you know how they eventually made it to where when you did different things, like they added mounting to the game, and then when you mounted the monsters, you would have this text that would come up saying like, oh, I've mounted the monsters, but you could change it. In that instance, like the moments that like I would get put to sleep, or if I got killed or I would faint, I put, dang, man, I fell asleep just like Kalis, like just like egging him on.
No,
it was so, yeah, man, those days were fun. And then Stoudemire would play, he would use the insect glaive, which that's a really fun weapon that I ended up picking up after a while. And then Kalis played dual blades.
Okay, so when I first started, like I told you, I picked up my brother's game.
Right.
Hated it, threw it away, wasn't into it. I said, my brother's going to play with me this time.
It was tough,
yeah,
man.
It was. And I told them, we're going to play this game together, and we're all going to play it. That way we can, you know, try to get through this together. That lasted up until the Kungala, the pink monkey-looking gorilla thing. They could not beat it. I could not beat it. Like I said, I put it down for 3 months. When I picked it back up, I said, you know what? Let me look online. I don't know why I didn't look up online. I used to do it all the time with other video games. I looked up online and realized, oh, okay, it's weak to fire. I got a fire sword. Okay, cool. It took me a couple more tries because with Monster Hunter, you have to learn how they move.
And once they start raging, that moment before, so raging is like, that's what happens just before you get to the point where they're weak, where they start limping and stuff.
Yeah.
They rage. And yeah, the rage moments are insane with some of the monsters, like the Kongalala. His moments really did suck. You know, he would start like flatulating on you and throwing like feces at you.
I remember the game had deodorant. And I'm like, why do I need deodorant in the game? Like, this made no sense until
you fought.
Until I fought it, and then
you couldn't use anything else until you used that. And
it had no use. I'm like, what is this for?
Until you fought the Kongalala.
Until I fought that thing, and I'm not even gonna say what he did to me. But back to what I was saying though, was they couldn't beat it, so they quit. They stopped playing. That early in the game, they stopped playing. So I continued, and I played all the way up until high rank. And that's when I had a mutual friend of mine come into the game. You remember Jose?
Yes.
So me and him were going.
Yes, I remember Jose
Orlando.
being into it. Yeah.
We were both going to Orlando. You know, all of us were going down for Halloween Hornets, and we both sat in the back seat. And I was playing on the PSP, and he's like, "Yo, what are you playing?" I'm like, he's never seen that game. And I'm like, "Oh, this is gonna be
welcome
fun
to this world." Yeah.
So 4-hour drive of just nothing but Monster Hunter. And so he told me he was gonna get the game and play it with me. And I didn't believe him. I think a month or two later, he comes back to me talking about, "Yeah, man, I'm like really far. I'm almost in the high rank." I'm like, "By yourself?" I'm like, "Okay, you know what? This should be fun." So that's how I started getting to play with a friend. I only had one friend at the time, just Jose, and that was my only Monster Hunter buddy. and then eventually I got my wife into it.
Right.
She got into it during the DS era. I think it was 3 Ultimate. I bought her a DS.
Yeah, I think I remember that actually.
We all had DSs. Me and Jose were already fans of the series. Ashley got into it, and that's when we all started playing. That was our group. You know, because Monster Hunter, you can have up to 4 players online to play.
Right.
To hunt. And we only had 3. And you know what? I was just happy to have one. So that's how.
Dude,
that's how we got.
I feel that. It's
because even on the DS, if you don't have somebody that knows what the game is, no one's gonna know about it.
right.
It wasn't heavily advertised. It wasn't out there.
Like I said, it's one of those games that, yeah, like you have to have a friend that kind of puts you onto it, or you have to have stumbled upon it. Dude, when I got into Monster Hunter, nobody told me about Monster Hunter. I did not hear about Monster Hunter the same as Persona. I heard nothing about Persona until like I started playing Persona 4 Golden on the PS Vita. You know, like that's what Monster Hunter was for me. Monster Hunter was just that game that, you know, you were either there or you weren't, you know? Not to make anybody like feel bad, but it was just one of those games that passed by so many people until it came into the forefront with World.
I think World is the reason why we have so many players talking about it now.
Oh, absolutely. And now
no doubt about
why
that.
we have the Niantic Monster Hunter now that's coming out next month.
Next month, yeah, September.
Yeah, in the United States. I've been playing it using VPN, and it's pretty fun. It's a very bare bones, rudimentary version of Monster Hunter, but I still think it's fun, and I do believe that once we get into the United States, I'm hoping that they have stuff like some of the monsters that I fight in Monster Hunter now, at least in this part of the, or in the earlier part of the game, you fight 1-star monsters. Now I'm on 2-star monsters with some 1-stars that pop up. So I'm wondering if that I'm gonna get up to the point to where there's like, you know, 5-star monsters that are like really hard to fight, that you need people to help fight. But it's really hard to use these ranged weapons in the game without somebody there to help you fight, because like if I had somebody that was a close range fighter and then I could back up to actually use these ranged weapons in the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Unfortunately, I did not receive a beta, and I don't have a VPN to play the game. I'm just gonna have to wait like everybody else in September.
So it's
you know how many emails I put in to try to get that beta, and not one of them got it. And then my friend, who I randomly told last minute, he just pops up and he just sends me screenshots. I was like, oh, look what I'm playing. I'm like, how many emails you put in? It was like, oh, just one. Why? I was just like, come on, man. That's not fair.
So you know somebody that got into the beta?
Just one. Yeah, he just signed up one time, no problem. I put in like probably like 10 different emails.
That's honestly like how it is. I had that same issue when the Overwatch 2 beta was coming out. Like I was putting in all these emails and stuff, I was putting in all this time to watch streamers to get a drop for the Overwatch 2 beta. It was either you get a drop or you have to watch 4 hours of Overwatch streams. I had to watch the 4 hours while other people were getting like 10 minutes in. They're getting the beta drops.
Speaking of that, do you remember about with Monster Hunter that in order to play the demo, you had to get it through a friend who had an email and he had 3 codes on there?
Oh wait, that was for
the DS. That was for
I think
3
I
and 4.
remember that, yeah.
And Generations. In order to play...
Oh my gosh, Generations. That was crazy.
In order to play the demo, you had to have a friend that got lucky enough to get the invite. And then from there, they had to give out the codes so you can play. And that's how I was able to do it. It was me, Jose, and my wife.
So which game would you say that you've put the most time in a Monster Hunter game?
I would like to say Freedom Unite, but honestly, I think it was 4 Ultimate.
I think the same thing too. So when I picked up Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, I think that it was maybe 4 or 5 months out until 4 came out. So like I put in a good bit of time for 3. I had fun with it. But then when 4 came out, me and my friends, we got it. And we put in so much time. That's where we spent a lot of those Saturday evenings watching Toonami and playing Monster Hunter was on that game. Yeah, we put in at least easily hundreds of hours into that game.
Where did you go to play Monster Hunter with your friends?
We would just kind of hang out at one another's places.
Okay, yeah, no, because we had to go to, pre-COVID, when McDonald's was open 24/7, the one right there by the hospital.
Oh yes, I remember.
It would be all three of us there till like 4 a.m. playing Pokemon, Smash, and Monster Hunter.
Oh my gosh. You guys were putting in that time, man.
Oh yeah, no. It got pretty funny. Like we were there for hours.
I think that was it 3 or 4 when they added online capability? Because they finally added online capabilities.
I want to say it was 3 because it was on the DS.
Right.
Wi-Fi.
DS had, yeah.
But I'm not too exactly sure on it.
Right. So I remember for the longest time, they did have a multiplayer one. They had Frontier, but it never came here. It was in Japan. Monster Hunter Frontier.
You're talking about G Frontier or something like that?
The Xbox one that was only in Japan. It never came here.
It was right after Freedom Unite, right?
And it had been out for a while. I don't remember when it came out, but it was out for a while. It was like considered like an MMO one, but like it wasn't really like an MMO. But it kind of, I guess, like plays out like how it does or how it did when like 3 or 4 came out. Mm-hmm. But they finally added that you can have the companions that help you fight.
The Palicos?
Yes. They eventually added that, which helped a little bit if you got them set up the right way, like with healing and stuff, and setting up bombs.
Do you remember the name of your Palico when you first started?
Ooh.
Yeah. I
think I named one of them Sephiroth.
And
then another one, I remember I think I remember like naming my guy Cloud and then my Palico Sephiroth.
For me, just like Pokemon, trying to pick out your starter taking hours, it took me hours to pick a name for my Palico. And I remember I was like, oh man, it's gonna take forever. I want to just start the game already. So I was like, I'll just let it pick the game, pick whatever. It chose Texas. That was my cat.
Texas.
And I have used that name throughout the entirety of Monster Hunter. I've never changed. If I'm able to get a Palico for my game, I will always name
it Texas.
And I've kept that tradition going since then.
That's awesome. I've done different name changes and stuff throughout the series, but the newest iteration of Monster Hunter, which is Monster Hunter Rise, I put a lot of time in that too. And what I liked about Monster Hunter Rise, something that I wasn't a big fan of in Monster Hunter World, was how they changed the ranking system for ranking up.
Okay.
You remember how, like in the older games, you had to hunt specific monsters, and then once you met the qualifications, you would get the urgent quest, and then once you beat the urgent quest, you would rank up.
Oh, you're talking about key quests.
Right.
Yeah, the specific ones to get you straight to urgent.
Right, where you had to go to the guild hub and actually, but they didn't have stuff like that in Monster Hunter World. It was very different. The hunter rank was built in. I wasn't a big fan of how they did the hunter rank in that game. And so they brought back kind of like the old school way of ranking up in Monster Hunter Rise, where you go into the guild hall and they had your village quests were separate from the guild hall quests. And they actually marked the key monsters you would have to fight. Then you would get your urgent quest to actually rank up. But what I did like that they added in, that they kept from Rise, was a lot of the mobilities. What I had mentioned earlier was like you go to drink a potion in the earlier games, your guy's flexing. No, you're not flexing. You slow down, but you can still move, which I like.
I remember running away from a Tigrex, having too afraid to heal with a potion or a mega potion because that thing was coming after me. And back then you had to go to another section of the map because it was a loadout map. It wasn't continuous.
Right.
And that was the only way I was able to heal and then go right back in. I was like, in order to play, because otherwise you would get killed because it takes too much time. The animation for you to drink a potion, it took way too much time for me.
Yes.
Same thing with whetstoning.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did the same exact thing. I would like leave the area because each section of the map in the earlier days was you would have to load into those maps, whereas the newer games with World and Rise, it's just like one expansive map. And that's something that I kind of like it, that they have it, that it keeps you in the game, it doesn't take you out of the game. That
it took me a while to get used to that. I think I was being chased by the Anjanath. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to a new section of the map, and my brain is still on how it used to be. And I'm like, okay, cool, let me heal up, no, that thing was right behind me, it killed me, I got carded, because I stopped. That thing was chasing me.
So, like, I would dodge, and then the fact that now that when you drink potions, you still have some mobility.
Yeah, you can run still.
Right.
You don't have to stop, everything's continuous.
I would say the thing that I don't like in Monster Hunter Rise is the way that you mount monsters.
Yeah. No, to be fair, I don't think I went that far with Rise.
So Rise is good. Don't get me wrong. It's fun. It's good. There's certain choices. So there's choices that they made to kind of bring back some old elements of the game that made me love it. But I miss, if you're mounting a monster, it's got to be because you jumped on its back. That's why I used the insect glaive a lot, because I would use it to get on the monster's back and to be able to take them down. But this one, it's like you do enough damage and then all of a sudden you can mount it, and then the zip bugs add a bit of mobility to the game that makes it interesting too.
Oh, you're talking about the wire bug
The
things?
wire bugs, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to say, but I feel old for saying this, but it was too hard. I was like, I can't do this. This is hard. I don't like this.
It
I don't like
you
the change.
It helps you get to parts of the map that would otherwise be harder to.
No,
so you'd be able to run up the
it,
wall. Use the, I would use the wire bugs to like get up to areas that I couldn't. I also like that you can get around a little bit faster with your dog companion.
I thought that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
That, and you can hit them. You can swing your sword while riding it as well.
Yes.
I thought that was really, really cool. And I'm like, man, you can get through this map so fast. I remember once you get carded, you have to go back to level 12, all the way to zone 12. All of a sudden, it takes you like 5 minutes just to get there. Then when you finally get there, the monster's moved on.
And running back then was like so slow too.
You had to keep some well done stakes on you just to get your stamina up.
And then remember that back in those earlier games, you had to use paintballs.
You know what's funny? I have a love-hate thing with paintballs.
Yeah, me too.
I love paintballs, and I wish they would have brought them back for World. But I understand why they didn't.
I like the way that they went about doing it with the tracking, where like you would.
I thought that was cool. Yeah, no, I agree. I thought that was cool too. What I don't like is that it just, after a couple footsteps, it just automatically locks onto the monster. I don't know. I liked the grind of having to look for it. I thought that was really cool. Look for a footstep here. Look for scratches here. I thought that was really cool. But
yeah, that was really cool. And it was just annoying, I would say, in those earlier games. But, I mean, it added to the Monster Hunter experience where you would put a paintball on a monster so that you didn't lose it. But then once that paintball wore off, if you're still fighting it and you happen to die, that's it.
If that thing, you go to zone 12 and that thing is in zone 10, you're not going to know until you get to zone 10. And if the monster gets bored, it might go to zone 11 where you get to 10. And you're just chasing this thing over and over again.
And the amount of times that like you'd walk into a zone and it's like right there, like right at the entrance.
I spent, I think, 30 minutes one time chasing a monster around the map until I finally found it because I forgot to paintball it and it was sleeping.
My gosh, yes. Sometimes you would have the guy in the weather balloon if you waved at him.
I remember that. I didn't know that was a thing until I started watching some YouTube videos.
The hot air balloon.
I think it only works one time per game.
I think so, yeah. But like per hunt, yeah.
Per hunt. It was such a lifesaver. I was so happy when I found out about that.
There was that one potion you would drink that would give you the location. I forgot what it was called. It was like Foresight or something like that.
I know what you're talking about. I do forget it because for some reason I'm thinking of the Farcaster, which was completely different.
It would bring you back to the
home base.
Right.
Yeah, I used that so many times to get away from the Tigrex because that thing just chases you around the map. It does not stop.
I never used it enough, honestly. But yeah, no, I probably should have.
It's funny enough though. The reason why we went to McDonald's and not played online with the DS on Monster Hunter is because it was so hard to tell each other paintball the thing. We needed communication, and that's the one thing about Monster Hunter, that if you're playing with a team, you need to be able to communicate.
Right. And I think that's why they added the ability to quickly tell people stuff, but it's still a lot easier. It was still a lot easier to have those people in the room with you. Like I said, I totally get where you're coming from. I had those two guys that I played the Monster Hunter with, and it was a lot easier to be like, hey, look, I'm going to paintball him. Or, hey, look, I'm about to paintball them. Tell me when you're ready. Like, if they get above them, if there's like a spot where they're trying to mount and they're going to jump on top of them or whatever, I'll wait. That type of coordination is hard to do unless you're sitting there, which is why like now it's nicer that you can play games like Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Rise on either over PlayStation or Xbox, their parties, or on Discord if you're playing on PC.
Yeah, PC now.
And yeah, like Monster Hunter, the franchise has really expanded. We talked a little bit about one of the spin-offs, which was the Niantic game, Monster Hunter Now. But there's also the other Monster Hunter games that came
Stories?
out. Stories, yes.
It's kind of like Pokemon, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. It's a little bit kind of like Pokemon. Do you have any experience with Monster Hunter Stories?
No. Believe it or not, no. I mean, I had a friend tell me that it's the same world in Monster Hunter, except in this world, they don't believe in hunting them because they are friendly, which
right, like
is
you
the
kind
opposite
of like
experience that I
partner
had.
with them. Yeah, it's a little bit different. But, you know, we've talked so much about Monster Hunter, but we haven't even talked about some of the landscapes in the game. Even from the earlier days of Monster Hunter Freedom 2 all the way up to Monster Hunter Rise, the game has had such amazing landscapes where it's like a snow landscape, a desert landscape, forest landscape,
swamps, castle, arena. There's so many different ones, and depending on the landscape, you also need the hot drinks and the cold drinks.
Right.
But that was back then. I don't think they use that now, do they?
I don't think you have to use that now. But yeah, you used to have to. So if you would, back in the earlier days, if you went to a place like Volcano, because they have volcano levels, they had a volcano level, or if you were in the desert, you would have to bring cold drinks with you. Or if you would go to
snowy mountains, like
cold areas, then you would have to bring hot drinks, you know, because there were some areas that were caves that you would need to bring hot drinks.
I think that was the one thing I really loved about Monster Hunter is that you had to prepare your bag ahead of time.
Yes,
before going in. It wasn't just
equipment checks,
get your weapon and go in. No, like you had to go in, make sure your armor's right, make sure your weapon's right. Then you had to make sure. Well, back then you had to make sure you had enough whetstones because whetstones were not provided for you like they are now.
Right? Yeah. Whetstones was something that was. It was a usable item that had a limit to it that it would go away.
You know what I never understood about whetstones is how they would work on hammers. You've ever whetstoned a hammer before?
That's weird. Maybe like if it was a hammer that happened to have spikes on it, that would make sense. But
there were so many times where I have my friend Jose. Remember, he would run with a hammer, and he'd have to whetstone. I'm like, why are we whetstoning a hammer?
Why are you sharpening this hammer right now? That makes no sense. There's also and we talked a lot about these attack weapons, but there's also support weapons.
Hunting horns?
The hunting horns, yeah. And honestly, to tell you the truth, man, like if I have somebody that can rock a hunting horn, let me tell you, they're super useful.
When I started playing World, myself, my wife, Jose, no, not Jose, I think we stopped playing with Jose around that time. I actually ended up getting another friend into Monster Hunter before World came out, and when World came out, he started playing it with him. And we played that like crazy, but it was all three of us in one map, and then we had a rando come in, and he had a hunting horn, and I'm just like, whatever, you know. But man, this dude was giving me defense buffs, attack buffs, and he was healing me. I was like, yo, I need a hunting horn player on my team.
Dude,
right
I'm
now.
telling you, like people, some Monster Hunter players might not know like how essential a good hunting horn player. Like I'm telling you, and then like I had one that they had a horn that did like almost like everything, dude. It was like damage buff, defense buff, and heal. I was like, dude, yes, please. And then I've also used the light bow guns.
I could never get into those. I tried them, and it's just that's even more of a learning curve.
So I got to really enjoy some of the ranged weapons in this game. So I remember building a light bow gun that also used recovery ammo. And so there'd be times where like I'm used to playing Overwatch, and I'll play a character like Ana where you might not know, but Ana in Overwatch, she's a sniper that heals. Mm-hmm. She uses a healing sniper. And so that was almost like what it felt like was that when I used the light bow gun and I used the healing ammo, it was like using Anna over again, so I kind of slid into that role a little bit. And then there was moments where somebody trapped it while it was weak, and I hit it with trank rounds and it went to sleep. So
another fun part about Monster Hunter is capturing.
Yes, we talked about, you know, hunting the monsters and killing them and taking the recovery, but yeah, sometimes you have to capture them.
Yeah, no, let me think. There was trying to capture them. Have you ever sleep bombed them?
Yes.
Sleep bombing is probably my preferred method of playing this game. Sleep bombing, in my opinion, is probably the best way to kill a monster.
And remember, like back then, or back in the earlier days, the sleep bomb stuff were things that you had to use like right up on them. Like you
had to get right up in its face to do it. You could not just throw it from a distance and hope it worked.
Right, like a paintball. You know?
And God forbid the thing woke up.
Oh my gosh.
Or the trap broke.
Right, yeah. So like, there's so much to the game. You build weapons, you build armor, but you also build traps. You know. Yeah,
you have to craft your weapons. I mean, there's things from flash bombs.
Right. Yeah. There's
pitfall traps, shock traps. I mean, there's so many things you can craft.
Literally every item in the game that you get, like, is craftable.
Yeah, it's craftable.
So that's something that I like, that you can buy potions and some of the stuff in a shop, or you can always craft it if you want to.
Yeah, I remember back in Freedom Unite, I think honey was like the most valuable resource.
Yes.
Because you had to either go to your farm and hope you can get honey, maybe like you get 4 chances of getting honey, or you had to go out into the actual world and look for places to gather honey. And honey was a rare commodity. Now it's a little easier. I mean, world, you just run up to those bugs that give you health immediately. It's no issue. And sometimes it crafts it for you.
Oh, yes. They've definitely made crafting a bit more easier in these later games. And I would say for the better, because there were some quality of life things that the series definitely needed. And
for newer players, I will say I'll agree with you.
I never want to go back to flexing after a potion. Please no.
Yeah, no, I like to run around and heal at the same time while still running.
Healing on the back of the dog adds even more mobility.
You know, I didn't play long enough to try that.
Dude, yeah. You can run and heal at the same time. You're running on the back of your dog and heal at the same time. The one thing I
will say that really messed up Monster Hunter for me is World, believe it or not. Because
did it really?
Yeah, because after playing World, I can't see myself playing a game that doesn't look like World. So when Rise came out, I'm like, World just looks too nice. I can't go backwards.
So I would say that Monster Hunter Rise is not a step backwards. Monster Hunter Rise is it's like a diagonal step. It's a side step and a step forward.
Yeah, I mean, the game always moves forward. I agree with that, but just World, something about World, man, it's just magical. And then Iceborne on top of that.
Yeah, as far as like what Monster Hunter World added to the series, I don't think that there's a Monster Hunter game that will be as pivotal as what Monster Hunter World was. Monster Hunter World was essential really for the series because like we've been talking about Monster Hunter for almost an hour now. It was a niche game. It was just one of those games that nobody knew, and Monster Hunter World brought it out into the forefront. More people talked about it. And yeah, like for a lot of people, that was their first Monster Hunter game. And so a lot of people might feel the same way about you because Monster Hunter Rise brought back a lot of old elements from the other Monster Hunter games that they might be confused or like, why is it like this? I don't understand. I don't like it. And like I said, there's some gripes that I do have about Monster Hunter World, which is like the hunter ranking system. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite parts about Monster Hunter is ranking up in the hunter rank, you know? So that's one of the things that I liked that they brought back in Rise. But I will say that there's some aspects of Monster Hunter World that I wish that Rise did have. So there was something about Monster Hunter World that felt a lot more grandiose, whereas Monster Hunter Rise does feel like it kind of scaled back just a little bit. Like Monster Hunter World almost feels like a little bit like an open world when you actually get into these worlds, because these expeditions.
Rise, for the little that I did play Rise, it was huge. The map was
humongous. No, the
like if it wasn't for the wire bugs and if it wasn't for the dog that you get, it'd take me forever to get through the map. That the dog is a godsend.
Absolutely. Since Monster Hunter World, I have definitely seen an uptick in the fandom. You know, I have some friends that I've played Monster Hunter Rise with, and I've seen some amazing Monster Hunter cosplay, dude.
You know, cosplaying with Monster Hunter is so much fun because it's one of those things where you see them and it's like, if you know type of thing. It's like you can spot them a mile away if you're a fan of Monster Hunter.
I feel like if you do a Monster Hunter cosplay, you can't do it wrong. Like, even if it's very like rudimentary, the whole spirit of Monster Hunter is crafting your own armor and weapons. I remember somebody doing that, and it was crazy. Like, somebody made a Monster Hunter armor out of magic cards.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, like, that's in the spirit of Monster Hunter. That actually fits very well with Monster Hunter.
I don't know. I remember back when I used to go to SuperCon every year, and back when it was being held in the hotel convention center, there was a cosplayer there. He had a great sword on him, which I immediately knew. I saw it. I was like, oh wow, okay. It was a Zenogre cosplay.
Oh, wow.
He had the whole thing. It was so beautiful. I'm just freaking out. I'm like, oh my god, it's Zenogre. That looks so beautiful. I was like, how did you make this? How did, can you get a pose? I need pictures. I had a couple friends who were just like, what is that? I'm like, oh, if you know, you know. You don't, I'm not gonna sit here and like ramble on about what it is.
We've definitely unpacked a lot with Monster Hunter. You know, we've talked about some of the landscapes. We've talked about a good bit of its history, our history with it. I have hunted with you on some points. I don't think we did a lot of hunting together, but we've definitely played Monster Hunter together.
Which game had the giant snake at the end? Was it 3 or 4? No, it wasn't 4. 4 was Gormangala, wasn't it?
I believe 4 was Gormagala, yeah.
So it was 3. I think we played 3 together.
Right. And I think we played a little bit of World together.
We might have, yeah. I don't know, man. World is just... I'm so happy World came out because it made it so much easier to make friends with Monster Hunter.
It really did. Yeah, like I said, you know, just how
it brought players
it
in from places I didn't think we were going to get. But one of my wife's biggest accomplishments playing Monster Hunter, and I think this is the biggest part about why I love Monster Hunter, is the reward you get from defeating or killing a creature that, you know, is the size of a building. I mean, you can die from a Rathalos 30, 40 times, but the one time you kill it, you get such an adrenaline rush that it's just like, man, I want to keep playing this game. It feels so good.
Right. When you're just fighting this monster, or it doesn't matter which one it is, but there will be times in Monster Hunter where you come across that one monster that you're having an issue with. And once you finally get past that hump, you finally kill it, you see that dying animation that it does, you drop the controller in that moment and you're like, oh my
you get
gosh.
from that, it's so fulfilling. I think it's why Monster Hunter is so popular today, because I still remember to this day when it was me, my wife, and Jose, and all 3 of us were playing. We were at McDonald's. It was probably like 2 a.m. We had to get through, I think it was a Rathalos, and this thing was just kicking our butts like crazy. We were getting carded, and then we played it like 4 or 5 times. We still getting killed. And I'm like, man, this sucks. So we got in one more time. And this is what I remember. Me and Jose both got carded at the same time. That thing did that little tail whip where it hits you. It hit us both really hard, poisoned us, and we couldn't get to the antidote quick enough, and we both got carded. So it was just my wife by herself against that thing. And mind you, this was her first time playing the game. She picked up dual blades. Okay. That was her thing. She was a dual blades person. Jose was the hammer guy. I was the great sword guy. And so dual blades, it's not that powerful. I mean, you get demon mode, which is really cool. It's a really cool concept with the weapon, but it wasn't that powerful. All I remember was me and Jose running as fast as we could to her, because we're like, if she dies, that's it. We have to start over.
Right. You get 3 tries.
Again. When we finally got to it, literally, I just see her dodging, attacking. She knocked it down. I'm like, wait, what? Well done. What's happening here? You know, she's doing things I didn't even believe. She's literally like she's fighting this thing with all her might. Like, she knocked it down 2 times, cut off the tail, broke the face, broke the wings. I'm like, do you even need us? Literally, by the time we finally made it to the monster, it was dead. The quest completed thing popped up, and I'm just like looking at Jose like, did she just killed this thing?
So, yeah, y'all just got carried. For those of you who aren't too well known with the series, when he says carded, that means that when you faint in the game, you get carried off into the base camp to pretty much reset.
By a herd of cats, by the way.
Yeah.
This game loves its cats, yes.
Yes. Yeah, these cat creatures in it. There's like the creatures of the world, like, you know, the palicos and the cats, people that kind of remind me of the folk from Hyrule.
Yeah. Speaking of cats, we didn't even talk about the fact that we have a cat that makes all your meals before a battle.
Right, in the newer games for pretty much prepping for hunts now.
Yeah. Remember how I was telling you earlier that I saw the Monster Hunter movie?
Yes.
That's the one thing I did like about the movie. Like, it was very little things I can say I liked about that movie, but the one thing I did like is that they had a cat cooking your meals. I was going crazy. I was like, hey, they had the cat. Okay, you know, the movie ain't so bad. I mean, it's horrible, but it's not that bad.
Oh yeah, for those of you that have seen the Monster Hunter movie and have not seen the games, that is nothing like the games. It's very rough. I mean, there's bits and pieces maybe you could pick off that you enjoy, but
the monsters looked very good. I'll say that much.
That's probably
what monsters were there? There was Black Diablos, Nursicilla. Those are the spider ones, right?
It's been a while since I've seen
honestly, I think that game, that movie, I'm sorry, had all the monsters from 4 Ultimate in it. Because the Gormangala was in 4, Nursicilla I think was in 4. I mean, Rathalos Raytheon has been in every single iteration of the game. I think if anything, that's a flagship monster. That's like the one monster you see in every game. Rathalos Raytheon.
Absolutely. So yeah, as we wind down this episode, we talked about some of the monsters. We talked about some of the landscapes, our experiences with Monster Hunter. I would say that was our last thoughts. Like, you know, do you have one little quip that you want to add to the end of this episode?
If you're picking up Monster Hunter from listening to this podcast, give it a chance. Try it, play it a little bit, see if you can find a community online to play, because this game is very rewarding and very fun. And when you do meet friends that play this game, they will play with you forever.
Absolutely. I would say if you are interested in jumping into the games, look into Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Rise. Those are the friendliest games for newer people.
Yeah, I would definitely tell them to pick up the World. I think that is the most friendliest way to play the game.
Thank you for listening to episode 61 of Project Geekology, where we talked about Monster Hunter. And if you enjoyed that episode or any episode that you have listened from Project Geekology, give us that nice 5-star review. It really does help out the podcast, especially with the algorithm. And go on X, Twitter, or on our Instagram and join the conversation. Add your experiences of Monster Hunter. We love to engage with our listeners. We love to hear your stories, your experiences, how you feel about the topics that we cover. And so go to the show notes. Our socials will be there. On X, it's at pgeekology, and on Instagram, it's Project Geekology. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Keep an eye out for the next episode, which is going to be on Twitch with a streamer friend of mine. And thank you.
Hey, it was really nice having you.
Thank you so much, man, for joining us. Goodbye, y'all.